Hey guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg, with my look back at Apple in 2014 with my top 5 picks for the year. Now, this is the 5th time I've done this type of video, and I'll post a link to all those previous videos in the description below so you can take a look back. So let's quickly recap what happened in 2014. Now, it was a very quiet year for the MacBook. In April, the MacBook Airs received a slight CPU speed upgrade and a $100 price cut. Now, the Retina MacBook Pro saw a similar CPU speed bump in July with more standard RAM, with only the top-end 15-inch model receiving a $100 price cut. Now, the non-Retina MacBook Pro survived once again in 2014 with only a $100 price cut, but remains the same computer launched in June 2012 and is now priced at $1099. Now, the Mac Mini saw a long overdue update which finally added Ivy Bridge processors, Intel Iris Pro graphics, 2 Thunderbolt 2 ports, faster PCIe storage, and 802.11ac Wi-Fi. But the new Mac Mini is probably most famous for what it removed, including the FireWire 800 port, the user upgradable RAM slots that are now soldered to the motherboard. The quad-core i7 configuration has been eliminated. The best you can do is a dual-core i7, and the 2TB server edition was also dropped. It's also $100 cheaper at $499, making it the most affordable Mac since 2012 when the Mac Mini saw a price increase. Now, the existing Mac Pro and iMac range carried over unchanged for the year, but Apple added the 27-inch iMac with a 5K Retina display with upgraded CPUs and GPUs in October. Apple did add a cheaper version of the 21.5-inch iMac in June, with basically the same specs of the new baseline Mac Mini. Now, that gets you a new iMac for $1099, which is a $200 price cut from the baseline configuration previously. OS X was updated to 10.10 Yosemite, which brought a complete visual redesign with some new features such as continuity. The iPad range was updated with a thinner and much more powerful iPad Air 2. The iPad 4 was briefly reintroduced to replace the aging iPad 2, but would again be discontinued when Apple cut the price on the original iPad Air to take its place. The iPad Mini 3 arrived alongside the iPad Air 2, but did not see the same level of attention, which carried over the design and specs and only added Touch ID, with a gold color option and cheaper storage upgrades. Now, the original iPad Mini became the cheapest iPad ever at $249, and the iPad Mini 2, formerly known as the iPad Mini with a Retina display, is now a compelling bargain at $299, $100 cheaper than the iPad Mini 3, which only adds Touch ID. Now, the only news on the iPod lineup for 2014 is the price cut on the iPod Touch, which is now $199 for a 16GB version with everything except the iPod loop strap. The stripped-down iPod Touch 16GB version that was introduced last year for $229 has been discontinued. And the long-forgotten iPod Classic was finally discontinued in September because Apple could no longer source the aging components. 2014 was perhaps the biggest year yet for the iPhone, with the introduction of the all-new iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. The iPhone 4S was discontinued, while the iPhone 5C took its place as the budget phone, leaving us with a complete range of iPhone sizes to choose from. And of course, with new iPhones and new iPads came new case accessories, which arrived with some new colors. Apple also launched CarPlay, which is a successor to Siri Eyes Free, which brings an iOS-like interface optimized for the car dashboard with a simpler, glanceable interface and Siri voice control for general functions like navigation, phone calls, messaging, and media. iCloud was expanded with iCloud Drive for centralized cloud storage on OS X and iOS, and iCloud.com got an updated look with access to your iCloud Drive and photos, along with a new settings panel to manage your account. Apple TV was again untouched for the year, but did receive an updated interface with a new look and many new channels which were added throughout the year. So let's get to my top 5 Apple products of 2015, starting with number 5, which is OS X Yosemite, which brought us a complete visual redesign that brought OS X closer to the look of iOS with new fonts, icons, and a consistent color palette. Now, similar to iOS, Yosemite makes heavy use of transparency as a navigational aid and solid colors to simplify and brighten the UI. Now, one of my favorite new features with Yosemite is continuity, which is a set of features that bridges iOS and OS X devices together seamlessly and automatically. One such feature allows you to place and receive phone calls right on your Mac, iPad, or any other iOS device that is in close proximity to your iPhone. This also works the same with SMS messaging, so you are no longer limited to iMessages on your iPad or your Mac. Now, another continuity feature is handoff, which allows you to seamlessly transfer what you're doing on one device to the other device. This primarily only works within Apple apps, but a good example of this is if you're composing an email on your iPhone or your iPad and want to continue composing your message on your Mac. The handoff icon will appear in the lower left corner of the dock automatically and will take you to where you last left off. Within iOS, the handoff icon will appear on the lock screen or within the Recent Apps launcher. Yosemite also eliminates the dashboard but adds widgets to the notification panel under the New Today tab, which also syncs all your information from your iPhone, such as your weather, world clock, stocks, and more. For number 4, I've chosen iOS 8, which isn't the massive update we saw with iOS 7 in terms of its visual design, but adds useful new features and a lot of changes to the development process, so apps can now take advantage of some interesting iOS 8 features such as iCloud, Touch ID, and more. This means you can now install third-party keyboards in iOS 8 and add apps that can add widgets to the Today tab under the notification panel. We also have HealthKit and HomeKit development tools. The camera app has also been updated with new controls such as manual exposure and time-lapse video. We also have a more powerful editor and an all-new Photos app which has replaced iPhoto. We also have a new battery usage meter, so you can now monitor what apps are taking up most of your battery life. iMessage has been enhanced with the ability to record and send quick voice memos or videos. You can also share your location via iMessage, or you can just mute or leave a group conversation, which is very useful. The Apple keyboard has been updated with QuickType for smarter, predictive text, so it can predict the next word before you begin typing it. iOS 8 also adds the Health app, which is a way of aggregating all the information from other apps or devices that are plugging into the HealthKit developer APIs, so you can now see all your health information in one location. Now, there are many other features with iOS 8, but the big story here is not what it adds, but what it gives developers to work with. For number 3, I've chosen the iPad Air 2. So the iPad Air 2 is thinner, much more powerful with an A8X processor, which has 3 cores and 2 gigs of RAM. This is the first iOS device to have more than 1 gig of RAM. We also have a new iSight camera, 8 megapixels instead of 5. We also have a new FaceTime HD camera, which is kind of lifted from the iPhones. We also have a new optically bonded display, which is now laminated to the glass so there's no air gap, so that improves contrast, color quality, refraction, as well as an anti-glare coating on the glass to make this the least reflective display of any tablet today. This is 18% thinner, is available in gold in addition to silver and space gray. We also have 3 capacities, 16, 64, and 128 gig capacities at the same pricing of last year's 16, 32, and 64 gig capacities. You also have an LTE version which now features Apple SIM, which is a SIM that works across carriers. So instead of buying a specific iPad for a specific carrier, instead you just select your carrier from settings, which is very interesting. And of course, Touch ID has finally been added to the iPad. Ultimately, the iPad Air 2 is by far my favorite tablet on the market with excellent hardware, software, and design. For number 2, I've chosen the only major new Mac product for the year, the 27-inch iMac with a 5K Retina display. Now, for the most part, the 5K iMac looks exactly like a standard 27-inch iMac, but adds an incredible 5K display with a resolution of 5120 by 2880, which is nearly double the pixels of a 4K display. This means you can preview a full 4K video project with plenty of room for the editor, which has become very useful to me now that I've moved over to full 4K video production and editing. This is also the most powerful iMac available, which can be upgraded to a 4 GHz Core i7 with an AMD Radeon R9 M295X GPU with 4 gigs of RAM, which is the configuration I'm using today. Now, I've been using this 5K iMac as my main machine for 3 months now, and it has performed flawlessly. The display is stunning, delivering pin-sharp text with lots of resolution to view and edit high-resolution photographs and video. Ultimately, this iMac has replaced my Mac Pro as my main production machine thanks to the display and its incredible performance. And for number 1, I've chosen the iPhone 6 Plus, which also is my favorite smartphone of the year. So the 6 Plus finally brings us a large 5.5-inch display at a full 1080p resolution, which is good for 401 pixels per inch. That's a big improvement over the 326 we've been stuck at since the original iPhone 4. The new display also uses something called dual domain pixels, which means the display has deeper blacks with great off-axis viewing, and it's also a nice bright display, so it's really viewable viewable outdoors. The camera is even better than before by adding optical image stabilization and a powerful new image processor built into the all-new A8 chip. The new 8-megapixel sensor also uses focus pixels for fast and smooth AF. This combination of features means that video is really smooth under any conditions and can focus quickly and seamlessly. The iPhone 6 Plus also adds a much larger battery, which delivers excellent battery life, and the first iPhone I've ever used that can get me through a full day of use. The FaceTime HD camera has also been significantly improved, and the speaker is louder and clearer than before, although it's still not stereo. The iPhone 6 is incredibly thin with a curved glass edge and a rounded metal body, so you have that nice smooth continuous surface which feels great in the hand. The 6 Plus also adds some iPad characteristics with software optimized for the larger display, and of course the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus adds Apple Pay, which uses NFC to work with Apple Pay terminals. Of course, 2014 also saw the early debut of the Apple Watch, but we'll have to wait till next year when it goes on sale before we talk about it. So as always, 2014 was a very busy year for Apple, and more is on the way in 2015. We're already seeing rumors about a Retina MacBook Air, a larger 12-inch iPad, so-called iPad Pro, and hopefully we'll see some movement on the Apple TV, and of course we should see Broadwell processors finally make it to the Mac this year. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again throughout the year.